Well, in business, I think every company goes through that threshold moment, or what I call their own personal plane crash. That could be they lose somebody on their team, or the company's going to be sold, or something's changing that people can't anticipate. So what I tried to do, what I was always successful at, is trying to have references that I've used in the past with other companies to help them get through it very quickly and anticipate what could be the next thing. I'll give you an example. I had a client once in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a big client, and they were looking to go into a merger with another company. Now this company is a bigger company, and they were looking to go into a merger. So people on the team who were looking to acquire multi-million-dollar software are now in a very challenging mode, to say it that way. So what I did is I had a couple other companies that went through the same situation a few years past. I had to not only talk to that company, but I used what they did on that team to help them understand how they can make the decision and go forward and be in alignment with their merger. And that actually turned out to be a $3 million engagement. Because I think what happened during that was, well, all this variances were going on with their company. I gave them certainty through the entire situation, and we were going to be there for them. I was going to be there for them. I was going to make sure it was going to happen for them. Either way it was going to go. And I think the ability to give them references was a key factor in being able to help my company and my clients to be able to move forward. During the miracle on the Hudson, when the plane crashed in the Hudson River, you don't think you can anticipate anything, because candidly, when you're going down in a plane crash, the only thing you have control of is your mind. But that's what you just have to start really focusing in on, is how am I going to use my mind? Once we got down and I knew that I was alive, I had a game plan, and my game plan was get to the aisle, get up and get out. But as game plans go, and not only in personal life but in business life, things change very quickly and dramatically, especially in time of a crisis and time of chaos. There's a lot of things. So what I did anticipate the different options I may have. First thing was, how am I going to get out of the plane? What happened was, everybody thinks there's one way to get out, the aisle. But all of a sudden you realize that when the top of the seats broke back, multiple ways to get out. Walking on top of the seats, you could get out. So all of a sudden I could anticipate, if I'm not going to be able to get out here during the aisle, how's the other ways I can get out? I had that going that time. When I got to the aisle though, my game plan was still get the aisle, get out. But all of a sudden I had to anticipate, how am I going to get out of here? But then I heard people yelling in the back. So all of a sudden my focus changed, and I had to anticipate what was going back. There was somebody injured, there was some chaos. So I have the ability, and I teach this strategy on being able to anticipate by using past people's references and other things that I've learned. And that's why I'm a voracious reader. I believe reading gives you the opportunity to understand other people's lives and use their references, their life patterns, to be able to use it and anticipate what may happen going forward. In my book, Moments Matter, I talk about anticipation because I think it's probably one of, not the key skill people need to have right now in this world of uncertainty. And I learned that from Tony Robbins. When I was head of security for Tony, one thing Tony told me first off when I became his head of security is that the skill that he valued most with anybody is the skill of anticipation. And candidly, I didn't know what that meant then. But as I was working with him, I understood. He was looking for people who could understand what he was going to, where his next step was going to go. He always talked about the story when he met Wayne Gretzky, why Gretzky was so great was because he could know where the puck was going to go next, not where the puck was now. And he kept telling that story over and over. I kept listening to it. Like, okay, it's about where am I going next? So when I was working with Tony, not only did I work with Tony and learn what he taught, I had the opportunity to learn with other people he was hanging with, other leaders around this world. And I saw a common trait. The personal assistants and the people that were around those people were the ones who could anticipate the next move first. So they didn't have to worry about it. They knew the next step was already handled, and then the next step was already handled. So I really believe it's something that you can learn, because I learned it. I felt that I could always anticipate well, and when I played sports in high school and in college and all that stuff, I knew sort of much where the ball was going to go because I had the references to be able to do that. The number of opportunities you've had grow, and all of a sudden you sort of understand a pattern. But when Tony sort of taught me that lesson, that's what leaders are looking for. That's why I always prided myself when I was in an interview process, I anticipated the next question and already knew the answer to the next question. And I never have failed in an interview because of that, because I had the ability to anticipate. And I think it's a key skill everybody needs to have right now. One thing I taught when I was in some of my sales positions, and I teach now on my teams, is go to the people who have been there. Use those references, use their executive assistants, use their personal assistants, use your team members. Start understanding, asking them questions. So you can start anticipating where this may be going. And the way you do that is to find the internal coach. I mean, people hear about coaches all the time, but I think the one reason I think I was really successful in every sales position is after I maneuver through all the people you have to maneuver through a big transaction, I would find that one person, that one coach, not a sponsor, a coach. A sponsor helps you get in. A coach helps you maneuver through. And once you find that coach and build rapport with that coach can give you the insights to help anticipate what the next move should be. When I was working during the Miracle on the Hudson, during the plane crash, I was working on a major transaction for Oracle. And this happens, right? And all of a sudden it could go disrupt the entire sales process. And though my client was there with me, and I was always there for my clients. So when I went down a plane crash, my client was there with me. And because my internal coach was the CIO. And the CIO would tell me what's the next steps that we would have to think about before we even got to that point. So after the plane crash, I think my life was going 15 different directions. But he already laid out the game plan for me as a coach. Say, okay, you need to think about this, you need to think about this, you need to think about this. And all of a sudden, he's leading me down the path to be able to do what I need to do. And that's the skill of anticipation. Building a coach in a business is probably the key skill I teach everybody that I work with.